Hey everyone, welcome. This is Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and this is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, sharing life with you tonight right here from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in Lubbock, Texas, and on 98.7 Walk by Faith Radio and 1420 AM Lubbock Christian Nation. You guys that are streaming us on 987radio.com, welcome tonight. You guys that are watching us on social media, welcome tonight. Hope you guys had a great day. We've had a great day at the Rock. It's been beautiful in Lubbock today. It was almost like 70 degrees, I think. So it was a beautiful day. Hope you guys had a beautiful day. Tonight's show, we are carrying on, and I'm just going to get right into it too, because we're just carrying on with some of the things that we talked about last night. And it's conversations, and I really get. I enjoy this part of sharing what we talk about in the office with you guys on the show. I enjoy because it's real stuff, right? What we're living and what we're showing on this show, what we're going through with all this stuff. This is real life, everyday chiropractic wellness information that you're getting, and you're getting to see. I hope what you're getting to see is a broader spectrum than what is just your life. And I'm not saying that arrogantly. I'm saying that your life is the only, you see you, which you should, because you're you, right? But I see hundreds of you, thousands of you sometimes. And I see repetition of conversations. I see repetition of situations. I see repetitions of malfunction, and I hear some of the same comments all the time. And so what I really enjoy about this type of setting and these types of shows is that we get to talk about them together. And you can send me a text, 806-794-0400. You can send me a message on social media. And while we're walking through all these, we can talk about this stuff together, because I want you to have power over your health. I want you to understand you have a choice. You're not like destined to some level of doom and gloom because of your genetics. Or I heard that today. I heard some old boy has dementia because of his genetics. And I was like, well, you believe that, you won't have any choice. You might as well just throw in the towel, right? So I don't think so. I think we have options, and I think we have a healing body. I think there's a spirit that runs our body that's 100% perfect 100% of the time. And I believe that the body is a self-healing organism. And if you put the body in an environment that's congruent with health, what you'll get health. And then one day you'll be like a candle and you'll be out of this place. And it'll be a long time, right? So I got a picture up here on the screen for you guys that are in the social media. You can't see it, but what you could do is you can go back and watch the Walk by Faith social media page later on, or you can come over to the Rock Health and Wellness Center page. But this is I was thinking about, how do I teach this idea of arthritis and degeneration and age? Because I took an X-ray of one of my longtime patients yesterday, and she's got some degeneration in her neck. And I'm like, I've been telling her for years, do your tractioning. You got to do your tractioning, and you got to keep your cervical curve right. Well, it's a little bit degenerative down at the bottom. And she's a nurse, and when she came back in, she was trying to process it and metabolize it and everything. And then she said, yeah, well, I know some of it has to do with age. And I was like, nope, it does not. It does not have to do with age. And so I thought, how do I teach this thing? So what I did for you guys on the radio, I've got a 1955 T-Bird. So I Googled it. My father-in-law collected. He was an old car guy. Those 80-year-old guys. A lot of those guys that grew up that are 80 years old now, those are old car guys. You may be an 80-year-old guy and you're a car guy. I am not. I am not a car guy. I don't know. I almost know nothing about a car engine, whatever. Uh, I did a little bit of work on my 78 Cutlass Calais in 1985 when I was a freshman, but I don't know anything about cars. And I was so disappointed from my father-in-law because he used to ask me car questions, and I'd be like, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. Um, I know a few things about a few things, but I know nothing about basically about cars. He would say, what's it got in it? We'll get a new car. And I'd be like, it's got leather seats and it's got a CD player. It's got a sunroof or whatever we had in the car, right? And he would look at me and he's like, you didn't look under the hood? And I said, no, I didn't look under the hood. I don't know what to look for. I mean, it's got an engine in it. I know it's got an engine in it. It started when I when I turned the key, it started up. So I was like, it had to have an engine in it. Anyway, I got two pictures right here on the screen for you. These are 1955 T-Birds. And one of them is out here in the middle of a pasture. It's a red, hard top 1955 T-Bird. It looks beautiful. That's kind of like he had one that looked just like that, except it was black. And he had it as a collector. He collected that old car and kind of, but I wanted you to look at it. So, and the other picture I've got is the same. I Googled it. I don't really know if that's a 1955 T-Bird or not. It said it was on the picture, but I've got a 1955 T-Bird that's sitting in somebody's backyard or something, and it's just rusted all to heck, and it's just ruined beyond. I mean, it's a goner. Somebody might be able to restore that, but I don't know. That looks pretty bad. Windshield's all busted out. The seats are gone. The door's gone off of it. The tires are all rusted looking and old. And so those two cars came off of the assembly line in the same exact year. Might have been in the same assembly line. Probably was. Those two cars were made in the same exact year. But one of those cars is old and torn up. It's not old and torn up, it's torn up. Both of those cars are old. One of them is decayed, it's degenerated, it's torn up. And the other car is in great physical condition. Beautiful. It's beautiful. Okay. Looks like a Red Raider car right there, right? These two vehicles right here were made in the same exact year. One of them is a goner, and one of them is beautiful and is taken care of. Now, can we say that the reason that this one is a goner, the one that's the old rusted, worn out, beat up one, can we say that the reason that is rusted and worn out and old and beat down is because it's old? Is it fair? Can we do that? Can we say, well, it's a 1955 T-Bird? I mean, that's 45 years plus another 24 years. That's 69 years, right? Is it logical and is it correct to say that the reason this car is old and worn out is because it's old? Not old and worn out, it's worn out. Is it fair and reasonable to say because it's worn out, it's because it's old? And my argument is no, it's not because it's old. It's just because it hasn't been taken care of properly for the last 69 years. Because we've got a car sitting right next to it that's exactly the same age as that car, and the car sitting right next to it is beautiful and restored and perfect, and all of it is great, and it's the same age. So there must be another reason that worn out car rusted up. There must be another reason. It can't be because of how old it is. Does that make any sense? I hope that makes sense. If that makes sense to you, send me a thumbs up. Say, hey, that makes sense. Okay, I hear what you're saying. Those two cars were basically made in the same year, and one of them's perfect and one of them is worn out. Okay, well, how come? How come one of them is worn out and the other one's perfect? All right, let's change the picture. Now, instead of looking at the old car, let's change the picture. And let's change the picture to something that looks like this. Okay, now this is a cervical spine. And this cervical spine has a section in the middle of it that is worn out and nasty looking, just rusted looking. Tires are flat, lost a door looking middle of the neck, right? This cervical spine right here has a segment between, this is C2, 3, so C4, C5, and C6 is worn out and is degenerative. I mean, there's just bone on bone in there. There's no disc space whatsoever. There's like all kinds of stuff going on right there, right? But at the same exact time, if you go up above it, C2 and C3 looks just fine. C2 and C3 doesn't have any of that degeneration. And now jump down below it and look at C6 and C7, or C7 and T1. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, C7 and T1. Look at that section right there. And you guys on the radio, what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a normal picture of what's going on. It looks normal. The disc space, we got a little bit of forward movement from C7 on T1. But this disc space is normal. That bone looks relatively normal. The bottom half of that bone looks relatively normal. Those sections, the section at the top and the section at the bottom, they are fine. The section in the middle is worn out. Then the patient's going to say, well, it's because I'm old. And I'm going to say, no, it's not. It's not any more reason because you're old than the old T-bird is worn out because it's old. Because I can bring a T-bird right next to you that says that was born in the same year that is beautiful. And I can show you a segment of your spine that's beautiful. So the question becomes, what is happening to this middle section that's degenerative? What is going on with that section right there? Why did that do that? Now, is there a component of that has to do with age? Yes. Simply the fact that process does take a little bit of time. When you mistreat that car, it doesn't just rust overnight. If you park your car out in your backyard, you can go out the next day and it's not going to be rusted. You could probably leave it out there for an entire year and go back out and it's still not rusted. It's going to take some time. So there is a time component, but it's not being worn out because of its age. It's being worn out because of neglect of the joint. And the neglect of the joint is what is the culprit. Oh, I lost it right there. The neglect of the joint is the culprit. And that's the part that this middle section is the part that's not moving properly, right? So we can look at something else too. I got another picture of one, and we got the same issue going on. Let me make sure. Yep, that's it right there. And we've got a section at the top that's perfectly fine, beautiful, matter of fact, beautiful, beautiful. And then we got a section in the middle that is degenerative, and it's got little hooks on it. And that section in the middle is worn out. So what is the mechanism of wearing it out, right? Now, let me ask you this. Is that worn out because of genetics of their mama or their daddy? If your mama's neck was worn out and your grandmama's neck was worn out, is your neck worn out because their necks are worn out? Do you have degeneration in your neck because your mama had degeneration in her neck, or because your grandmama had degeneration in her neck? No, that's not true. It doesn't make any difference what your mama or your grandmama's neck looks like. It has nothing to do with your neck. Your neck may be degenerative because that particular segment is not being treated properly. That particular segment has lost. And what did it do? It lost something along the way. And probably what it lost was that cervical curve. Right? So now that cervical curve was lost. Now the compression of time takes over. Now we've got compression on the disc. We've got lack of blood supply to the disc. We've got changes that are going to start to take place, and the area of the spine that has the most pressure on it is the one that's going to deteriorate. And the area of the spine that's still moving properly is going to not deteriorate. And that right there is because of the movement of and how that. Thank you, PC. I appreciate that. Is saying yes. Okay, now we can get down to it, because if you thought to yourself, wait a minute, I've been told that it's genetics. That the reason because my mom's neck hurt, and my grandmama's neck hurt, so I just figured it's just part of my life. Well, there you go. As soon as you figure that it's just part of your life, then you don't have any power over your health. And now you just do whatever, just jump in there with that, what we talked about last night with NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, right? And so we just buy that concept. Well, I had a lady today tell me her middle finger swole up for no reason at all. Now, let's just take that sentence. Let's take that sentence for a second. And that's not what she meant. That's not really what she meant. But that's what she said. It just swole up for no reason at all. And I'm like, okay, let's stop for just a second. And let's just say that you have an innate intelligence inside your body. You have a spirit of God inside your body that's running these cells and keeping all this stuff working. And it swole up. You got your middle finger swole up on you, right? It didn't do it for no reason at all. That's not a thing inside the body. That's as bad as saying autoimmune diseases is your body mistakenly attacked itself. We talked about one of the autoimmune diseases yesterday morning, and then it said something about your body mistakenly attacked itself. And I'm like, no, sir, your body did not mistakenly do that. You could look that on almost any autoimmune disease. That we were Sjogren's is what we were talking about yesterday. And I don't even know if I still got it. I looked it up just to talk about it. No, but I looked it up yesterday, and the first thing it said was your body mistakenly attacks itself. You've probably been told that. You've been told that your body mistakenly attacks itself. That's what's going on. That's why you have an autoimmune disease. And I'm like, no, your body didn't mistakenly do it. It did it for some reason. Now, who knows the reason? I don't know the answer to that question. I may know the reason, or I may not know the reason. Maybe your medical doctor knows the reason. Maybe your dentist knows the reason. I don't necessarily know who knows, because how is anybody supposed to know everything that's going on in the world, right? And hello from Florida. What's going on, Kyle? Kyle Wilson's one of my good friends. We used to coach together. And he's left us a message on Facebook. He's talking about hello from Florida. He must be on vacation for this Christmas time. And I hope he's doing good down there. I know he's not eating any sugar, because he's like, nope, I got quit eating sugar. I told Kyle he needs to come on the station. So if I get him as part of the show, it won't be long. I'll get him on here. We'll have a good conversation, and it'll be a blast. You guys will love it, because when we get together, we could talk for hours and hours and hours about stuff. But yeah, hey Lewis, I hope you're doing good too. So your body doesn't mistakenly do things. Your body does things on purpose, especially when it's attacking itself. Your immune system's doing it on purpose, right? Your finger didn't swell up for no reason. Your fingers swelled up for some reason. What is that reason that it happened? Why does your finger swell up? Because something's going on, right? So let's get a little bit deeper into some of these things, and go along with what we were saying last night. And real quickly, I just want to say that the reason that last night we were supposed to do Take Health to Church, but I didn't make it to church on Sunday. I made it to the church of shopping on Sunday, and because we were in the Metroplex over the weekend, so that's why we didn't have Take Health to Church last night. And so we're just going on with it. So anyway, I've just thought about saying that, and I meant to say that earlier. All right. So what I wanted to talk about, because we had a really good conversation about joint mechanics and not so much joint mechanics, but nerve mechanics. What is happening in your nervous system? Why? Because we do a technique in the office called AMIT, Advanced Muscle Integration Technique. And part of Advanced Muscle Integration Technique, and there's another technique that I'm not certified in. I am certified in Advanced Muscle Integration Technique, AMIT, but I'm not certified in a fascial distortion technique. But I've visited with MJ about it a lot in Roswell, and I've studied some of the origin insertion techniques when it comes to muscles. And when I say origin insertion, the origin of the muscles, where the muscle starts. So origin of the, let's just say hamstring. Because I was working on a hamstring today, a hamstring glute combination. And the hamstring glute combination got pulled while playing pickleball. So right here is the origin of the hamstring, which is right up underneath your glute, like right on your cheek, your butt, right below your glute muscle in your cheek, right on that little tailbone. That's the origin of the hamstring, is right there on that ischial tuberosity, the bottom part of your pelvis. The origin itself comes off of there, then it runs down, and then your hamstring is actually multiple muscles put together, but then it splits when it gets down to your knee, and it comes around to the inside, and then it comes around to the outside of your knee, and there's an insertion point. And what that means is that there's a point to where the muscle will attach itself to the bone. The tendon attaches itself to the bone. So you've got an origin and an insertion of every muscle in your body. If you don't, you've got a muscle torn loose. So yes, every single muscle has an anchor point on one end and the other end. That's how it moves the bones. That's how it moves the joints. And these muscles cross those joints at some point. And so when they cross the joint, let's see if I can make this a little bigger for you. When they cross the joint, that's how it moves the joint. So I've got a bicep that comes across my elbow joint, and when it contracts, it pulls the lower part of my arm up and rotates it up. That's what the bicep does. Okay, the pec muscle is attached to the chest and the sternum, or all the way around these ribs, but then it goes over here to your humerus, to your arm bone. So when your pec contracts, it pulls that arm closer to your chest. That's how your muscles work. But they're attached to the bone. So when we're doing AMIT, Advanced Muscle Integration Technique, or when we're doing fascial distortion type of stuff, and I don't want to get in trouble with those guys because I'm not a fascial distortion practitioner. Then when we're working on those, we have to actually get down to the origin insertion point on the bone. And that's tender, because when you get all the way down on it, it's tender to push down where that tendon is actually attaching on the bone. And especially if it's in a place like when you're working on that hamstring and you got to get kind of up underneath that glute, and it's a little personal in there. And then you got to kind of work on get through the skin, through the muscle, through the tissue, all the like fat, anything that's on the leg, and get all the way down to the bone. You got to kind of go through some sensitive, not personal sensitive, but some pain sensitive areas to get there. Working on the shoulders the same way, working on the neck. Some of those places are very tender. And so that's why we get down to those. What we're trying to do is we're trying to reset the receptors that are in the nerve. So we were working on that And that's what caused me to want to talk about this tonight. And it's what caused me to want to show you some of these pictures. And we'll just start with, well, first, this is a really awesome picture. And for the radio people, we're showing a picture just of the nerves themselves, like the blood vessel and then different parts of the nerves. So you've got the dendrites, you got the cell bodies, you got the dendrites, you got the axon, you got all these little endings that are coming out here. Like this whole it's just amazing. It that that right there, that picture is how you look at this. Uh, whether you're looking or listening, it's how you look at the screen and know that it's me through that right there. That like there's not a computer chip in your head that says, "Oh, that's Jason right there." Nope, that's not. It's nerves. It's nerves that are firing. It's nerves that are firing that control your entire body from top to bottom. We're gonna take a break just for a second, and then we'll be right back, and we'll keep going with the other half of this. I think you guys will enjoy it. So come back with us if you guys are on the radio. Yeah, there's sometimes I'll put that back up there, but there's sometimes that I look at those pictures and I just think to myself, like like how amazing that is, really. I mean, if you think about actually what like that's your nervous system times about a quadrillion. Like there's so much of your nervous system that's going on right. Every single part of your nervous system. All of that right there is just that. It's a nerve and a nerve bundle. And as soon as we get back from the break, I'm going to talk about the nerve bundle and the different types of lines or fibers that are inside a nerve bundle and kind of show you how it comes around off of the nerve root in the lumbar spine or the neck or wherever it comes off of the spine and in that whole thing and how it fits. But when it fires, like when we last week we did a whole show on vestibular system and balance, right? Inside the brain stem. And the brain stem is like it's like if you had a celery stalk or like the bottom half of a piece of broccoli where it's all the broccoli is kind of a great example. Down at the bottom on the stem of the broccoli, it looks like just like a stalk, right? It looks like a stick when you put it all together. But if you were to somehow be able to like celery is kind of better because it's very stringy, right? So the celery part or any of those strings, if you put them all together, what you start to realize is those are just like individual fibers that are all running through there that are all stuck together to make that stalk really hard. And that's what your brain stem is. So if you microscopically came all the way down into your brain stem, what you would see is you would see a picture like that. Like you would see nerves that are just firing. It's just like um, let me see if I can real quick while we're still on the break. Let me see if I can find that picture. Um, no, it'd be in the. See if I can. Let me see what I can. No, I can't. I can't find it real quick. Um, but it was just one of the most amazing. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC, and we're talking about your nerves and pain and function and all that sort of thing. There was one picture I was trying to show these guys on social media about nerves and how nerves work. I'll bring that up. I'll find that picture tomorrow and bring it back so we can see it. I mean, we've seen the picture of the cell, but there's a beautiful picture. There's a beautiful picture somewhere, but I don't want to get off track too far because I got a bunch of stuff that I want to cover in this second segment. But so let's take a look at the actual anatomy of a nerve and the nerve root, and then what's inside the nerve root, and then we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail. So I don't know that we think about it. I don't know that we necessarily think as people. We just don't think about how this works, right? Like when I showed the picture the last week or last couple weeks of Christopher Reeve that broke his neck at C3 and then all of a sudden became paralyzed. So it was like, what was he doing right there? Right? He was there it is. That he like what he actually injured his spinal cord. This whole thing that's full of all of those nerves that are running all together, he injured it right there that stopped the transmission of impulse that's going from his body into his brain. And that's what makes us paralyzed. But inside that nerve, so if you look and you come off of that nerve root, and then once you come off that nerve root, the spine, you're going to get sensory information coming in on one side, you're going to get motor information coming out on the other side, meaning the brain to the body is sending motor information down that's coming out one side of the nerve, and then you're getting the other side of the nerve that's receiving sensory information from the periphery and bringing it back into the nerve and into the brain. So people say, well, I don't feel like I need a chiropractor. And it's like, that's one of the dumbest things that you can say. If you understood nerve function and neurology, you would be saying that 50% of my nervous system tells me that I don't need a chiropractor. And I'm like, well, 50% of your checkbook wouldn't be acceptable. I mean, let's just take 50% of anything. Like, no, we're not gonna determine what's going on 50% of it. We need to know, like, what about the other 50%? What is it telling you? Well, I don't know what it's telling me because I can't feel it. Exactly, you can't feel it because it doesn't have any sensory nerve information that's coming into the nervous system because it's going out of the nervous system. How do you know how it's going out of the nervous system? How do you know how well that part of it's functioning? Have you ever walked with your foot flared? Have you ever walked with your toe turned in? How long do you think you can walk with your toe turned in before your knee or your hip starts to degenerate? Walking with your toe turned in is like parking your car out in the backyard for 40 years. You'll end up with a degenerative hip one way or the other, right? You say, well, my hip feels fine. And it's like, well, okay, but you're walking with your toe turned in or you're walking with your toe turned out and you're doing that for 40 years. And then all of a sudden you develop this degeneration in your hip and then you say it's your mama's fault or your daddy's fault. Because it's genetics, I got bad joints and stuff like that. I'm like, no, you don't. But all those times that you were saying, well, I don't need to get adjusted because I feel great. What is going on with your structure and function? What's going on with the function part of your body? What's going on with your shoulders? Are they functioning equally? What's going on with your hip joints? Are they functioning equally? Well, I feel great. Okay, great. That car feels fine until it's rusted up. It's just laying out there in the backyard, rusting away, right? So that's one thing, is 50% of your nervous system, at least, half of those nerve fibers are motor. So what are we seeing at the end of the bundle right here? At the end of the bundle, now when you cut a cross section of that nerve, the very first thing that I want you to see on the cross section of that nerve is the blood vessel. Okay? You've got a blood vessel and an artery. You got an artery and a vein right there. You got an artery and a vein inside this nerve bundle. And this nerve bundle is a whole bunch of little bitty fibers that are all bundled together. It's kind of like a coax cable or a telephone line, or back in the old days of can't use that one anymore, right? They don't even make telephone lines anymore in a lot of houses. But back in the old, so you got a whole bundle with a whole bunch of individual nerves in it. But here you go. You've got blood supply. What's in the blood? What's in the blood that is supplying the nerve? That is a key component to the health and wellness of the nerve. Now, I'm going to read a quick little, because I found this when I was talking about this. It's a quick little article. I'm not going through the whole thing. This is we've gone over it before. Role of resolvins in inflammatory and neuropathic pain. This is in Pharmaceuticals, October 23, Volume 16, October 2023, Volume 16, Number 10, Article 1366. And it talks about 3 different types of pain: nociceptive pain, inflammatory pain, and neuropathic pain. And it says nociceptive pain, stepping on a person's toe causes nociceptive pain. There is no tissue injury. Recovery is quick and complete when the foot comes off the person's toe. Okay, that's one way. Number 2, inflammatory pain. Hitting a person's toe with a hammer causes inflammatory pain. There is tissue injury. Recovery requires the resolution of the inflammatory process. And number 3, neuropathic pain. Neuropathic pain occurs when the nerve itself is injured. The nerve itself. How could the nerve itself be injured? What is one mechanism that the nerve itself could be injured? Okay? Because I had another patient today tell me that I'm going to get to take care of her husband soon. And she said, he's got pinched nerves in his neck, in his back. She said, he's got pinched nerves in his back. And I was like, okay. And I was thinking in my head, probably not. Probably not pinched nerves. Where would they pinch? Because that's a word we use all the time. I got a pinched nerve in my back, right? Okay, well, what pinched it? Did you pinch it or did you stretch it? Because it's the same thing. Or what's actually pinching it? Is it the soft tissue that's pinching it? When you put your hand on your wrist and you push down on your wrist, you're squeezing your wrist and it hurts. Are you actually touching the bone of your wrist? No, you're touching the skin. And the skin is touching the fascia, and the fascia is touching the muscle, and the muscle is touching the bone. It's actually touching the periosteum, which is around the bone, and then that's touching the bone. So, what is it that's touching on the bone? Well, sometimes all it takes is a little bit of pressure. And now what we're doing when we hit the outside of that nerve, whether that pressure gets caught up in, like, if it comes out of your cervical spine, your neck, it can run through this old thoracic outlet syndrome where it runs through your shoulder, or it can run through your elbow, and then somebody will tell you that your ulnar nerve is in the wrong spot and we need to have some sort of surgery because we need to pull it over, and because somehow it just became in the wrong spot for some reason without even hitting it, smashing it or nothing. It just did that. And then, or we could have it down in our wrist, and then they'll say it's carpal tunnel, and then your wrist, and then your hand hurts, and then it's like, ouch, right? That's neuropathic pain. And neuropathic pain is a different animal, and one of the things that it's compression somewhere along the words, not like pinched like you think, but there's some sort of irritation, either compression or stretching of the nerve itself. But I just wanted you to see that inside of that nerve is a blood supply. Inside the nerve bundle. And that dude is very, very small. Like when you're doing dissections on a person, some of those nerves are like thread, like needle and thread thin. Some of those nerves get a little bit bigger. So like they're like the size of a spaghetti noodle. They're about that thick around. And then your sciatic nerve, or some of those nerves get to be sometimes big around as your finger. They're big, but a lot of those nerves are very, very, very tiny, but they still have blood supply. And they have blood supply because you got to get oxygen into the nerve in order for the nerve to function properly. Now, just imagine how small that blood supply is in those little bitty nerves. And just imagine now that you have an increased amount of glucose in your bloodstream, and you have very thick, sticky blood that's trying to pump through that nerve. You can't get the blood supply through that thick, sticky nerve. That thick, sticky blood can't get through that very, very small blood supply. So what happens is now the nerve stops functioning properly. The nerve stops functioning properly because it's not getting any oxygen. You're basically choking it out. And what else is in your blood? Is alcohol in your blood? Are cigarettes in your blood? Is caffeine in your blood? What is it high omega 6s? It's like, wait, I don't understand. I don't understand why you say that if I eat peanut butter, or I eat seed oils, or I eat corn oil, or I eat whatever, that I don't understand why you say that by eating that, I will end up with pain in my knee or pain in your finger. Like my middle finger just swole up for no reason at all. Nope. That's not true. It swole up for some reason. Maybe we're not getting enough blood supply. Maybe we're not getting enough venous return back to the heart. Maybe we got a clog up in there some way, right? So what if the blood was full of inflammatory fatty acids? And what if those inflammatory fatty acids was flowing through the nerve, the blood vessel that's inside the nerve? And what if the mitochondria and the cells around that nerve that are inside that nerve, what if they were reading that and saying, I think we're supposed to create more inflammation. I think that's what we're supposed to do. Hey, are you guys getting high 6s? I'm getting high 6s. Are you getting high 6s? Yep, I'm getting high 6s. Well, maybe we should make more inflammation. They're trying to tell us. It kind of reminds me of that movie, The Hunt for Red October. Y'all remember that movie with Denzel Washington and the old Gene Hackman? That was The Hunt for Red October, and they're down there underneath. I think that's what it's called. They're down there underneath in a submarine, and they get the big old fight because they think that World War III is going on above them, and Gene Hackman's wanting to hit the button and release the nuclear weapon, and then it was like, what were they supposed to do? They lost the signal, right? They lost the signal, and then they didn't know how they were supposed to act, because it was like, I don't know. What are we supposed to, like, and Gene Hackman, you all saw the movie. Well, the cells do pretty much the same thing. Your cells are talking to each other, and it's like, hey, I'm seeing a lot of 6s come through here. I'm seeing a lot because I ate a bunch of corn oil or a bunch of Bucky's chips, nuggets with brown sugar and corn syrup, or I just drank my favorite little soda pop that's full of corn syrup, and all of a sudden I got soda pop running through my blood. And when I got soda pop running through my blood, it's running through the blood vessel that's inside my nerve, and the nerve is now becoming inflamed. And when the nerve is becoming inflamed, wherever it's inflamed, it's going to start to send through the little parts of the nerve itself. It's going to start to send sensory feedback from the nerve back into the spinal cord. And then when it hits the superhighway of the spinal cord, back into the brain. And it's reporting back. The nerve itself is reporting back to the brain to tell the brain what's going on down there. And the brain says, ouch. The brain says that, oh, well, that hurts. That's what that is. We've got this stimuli that's coming through there, the stimulus, and it's coming through there, and now we're getting it because of what's in our blood. It's important to keep our blood clean. It's important to keep our blood balanced. It's important to keep it flowing nice and thin, to keep it flowing so that the oxygen that's in the blood can get to the nerve. It's just super important for that blood flow. But I thought it would be awesome to show the picture just so you can see the picture and you can see, wait a minute. Because it's like, wait, there's a nerve, and then there's a blood vessel inside my nerve. Like, whoa, hold on just a second. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that. And then, yep. And so that diabetic person, diabetic neuropathy is the clogging up of the blood supply to the nerve, which chokes out the nerve, which causes the nerve to die. You ever known anybody to have a stroke? Brain tissue, I didn't have a great picture, but this is the one that I got right here. Brain tissue after a stroke. And I just Googled it. And what's happening? You get the blood supply all clogged up. You get the blood supply all clogged up, and now it stops flowing to a certain area of your brain. And what is your brain? Your brain is a group, a cluster of nerves, billions of them. It's a cluster of nerves, and those nerves need oxygen. They need oxygen in order to function. And if you cut the oxygen off to the nerve, then when it says, well, I've got brain tissue that's dead, basically what it's saying is I've got nerve tissue that's dead. That's why I hate Botox. It's like, why would I inject my face with a toxin that's going to paralyze my nerve? That's why I don't think it's a genius idea to burn your nerves unless it's your only option. You don't want to burn your nerves because your nerves are feeding your brain. It's your brain. It's like you might as well burn your brain. It's like, are you kidding me? Not your brain, right? So that's a picture of what would happen, that now we've got dead tissue. Well, that tissue has some sort of function. So now that person has a stroke and they lose that part of my dad had a stroke one morning. He lost it. Have we said this in a while? Most strokes occur between 4 and 7 a.m. And your oxygen level in your blood is lowest between 4 and 7 a.m. So my people that come in and we take their oxygen and we check them, and their oxygen is at 94, 95, 93 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What is it? What I think, we're setting themselves up for a stroke, because between 4 and 7 a.m., that 92 is going down, that 93 is going down into the 80s. And now we're going to change what's going on inside the brain, because our oxygen levels are low and the brain needs oxygen, right? So we don't want to have a stroke. We don't want to have and I'm not really talking about stroke tonight. What I'm trying to talk about is the way nerves work. That's what I'm really trying to talk about. And so I want to move to the next thing, and I want to show you a picture of the receptor. And now that we've kind of got a better understanding of that, it's like, okay, there's blood supply, there's nerve supply. Now, what does it mean by receptor? What is it that, if I was going to take a picture of your skin, and it's like, how do you know touch? And I've talked about this before. If you were to take a pen and you were to write, just make a little square on your fingertip that's 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, And you can't see that, but if you had a little square that you just had on your fingertip, you would have 2,500 per square centimeter, 2,500 of these little receptors in your fingertips. And these are so small you can't even see them you can't really see them on the picture right there. But these receptors, you've got these Merkel cells. They're receptors in these Meissner corpuscles. Those are receptors in the Pacinian corpuscle. Those are receptors, and some of them are for pressure, and some of them are for hot and cold, and some of them are for sharp and dull. And so when there's different ways that you feel things, but feeling it right there means that when you touched it and your hand touched it, that you put enough sensation, you put enough pressure on the receptor so that the receptor now, you set the receptor off. It's kind of like honking your horn in your car. You got to press it hard enough to honk your horn. So if you press it hard enough to honk your horn, then all of a sudden the horn goes off, right? Well, if you press it hard enough to feel it right there, and it doesn't take much, like it can be very, 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 very soft. A feather, you can feel that right there. And what is happening right there? You are setting off the receptor, and the receptor is connected to the nerve, and the nerve is connected to a bigger nerve, and that bigger nerve is running all the way down your arm into your spinal cord, and now it's shooting up into your brain. And your brain is now receiving a little bit of that information from the end of the nerve, from your finger, and now you say to yourself, something is touching my finger. But right now, you're not thinking about your shoes. Except for right now, you're thinking about your shoes. And you're like, yeah, I'm thinking about my shoes now, but I wasn't 5 seconds ago. What is that? How does that work? Well, your shoes are hitting those receptors in your feet, and the receptors in your feet are firing up into your brain. Except now, your brain is inhibiting that information, because your brain is trying to listen to me talk about what I'm talking about with these receptors. And so all of a sudden your brain is like, no, I don't need to know about my foot right now. I know I have my shoes on. I put my shoes on earlier. I don't need to know that I have my shoes on. So it inhibits, it turns off some of this information that's coming. And most of your brain function is inhibitory, because there's no possible way that your brain could process all of the things that's going on all of the time and be efficient at doing anything. It's like, no, I don't need to know. But as soon as I said shoes, you felt your feet again. You're like, yep, I got my shoes on. And then it's like, whoa, where did that information come from? That information just got non-inhibited, because your ears fired your brain. Your brain was like, whoa, okay, now I can feel my shoes. And that's constant information coming back and forth into the brain. And it's like, it's an amazing system. That is the amazing system of the universe. It is the number one amazing system of the universe, the human nervous system. The human body, period, is the number one system in the universe. It is amazing what is happening inside our bodies. And we don't get enough of this kind of information, I don't think, because we're working on other stuff, or we don't care, whatever, But then we can't figure out why our finger swells up, or what is going on with the muscle in my neck. I can't lift my head up and it's like, maybe it's arthritis. I'm like, maybe I ought to hit you in the shin with a pipe. And then it'd be like, that would give you something to think about. No, just kidding. But no, I can't pick my head up. It's like, it's not functioning properly today. Why? Well, we got to figure that out. We got to get it to function properly. We've got to reset the nerves. We've got to look at the brain. We've got to see what the brain is doing with both sides of the body. And then last night, what we got into right at the end, because I still got it written on the board here, is we got into right side and left side hemisphere of the body, of the brain, and what the jobs were and how it might change our outlook on things. Like if our right side's driving too hard, we got too much information coming into the right, but not enough to get it over to the left, we get anxiety and depression. Hey, listen, there's a lot of anxiety and depression going on right now. And I just hope that you would just hang on. Just hang on. It's December. It's the middle of December. Hang on, because we're going to get out of it here soon. Don't let it wear you down. Move your feet, stay away from the sugar, get you some water, all those good things. Hey, we did a lot of that fast. I thought we would. That's the end of the show. I hope you guys got something out of that. And thanks for the comments. Thanks for the comments. Kyle, I hope you're having a great time in Florida. Tell April and the family hello for me, and I hope they're all out there with you. And I hope to see you guys soon. And all you guys that are listening to us, we'll be back tomorrow night. You guys have a great night.